Imagine you're holding a bag with $100,000 in cash. You could buy a house, a luxury car, or a whole new life, but you can't spend a single cent of it.
Imagine you are standing in a crowded city holding a bag containing $100,000 in cash. To most people, this looks like a winning lottery ticket, but to you, it's a massive problem because this money is dirty. It didn't come from a legal job, it came from illegal drug sales. You can't just walk into a bank and deposit it, because the moment you do, they start asking questions and reporting the transaction to the government. You could try to hide it in a suitcase on a flight, but that is incredibly risky with modern airport security. Ultimately, you need to launder this money to make it spendable, but the traditional ways of cleaning money are becoming harder every day. This is where a secret, mostly invisible system comes into play. A system that moves trillions of dollars without ever tripping a single bank alarm.
We aren't just talking about a few criminals in a basement. We're talking about a ghost system that moves 3 to 5% of the entire world's GDP. That is roughly $4 trillion in criminal proceeds flowing through our global economy every single year. This includes money from drug trafficking, human smuggling, illegal weapons, and even the poaching of endangered wildlife. This flying money system is an invisible network that secretly connects organized crime groups across the entire planet. It links illegal gold mines in the Congo to the cocaine trade in the Americas, and tusk poaching in Africa to unassuming storefronts in major cities like Rome or Lima. It is a shadow economy where the money doesn't actually move through wires or banks. Instead, it flies at 30,000 feet, remaining completely untraceable to the authorities. To understand how this works today, we have to travel back over 1,000 years to China's Tang Dynasty. This was a golden age of history, where the capital was one of the most populous and thriving cities on Earth. Back then, people used heavy copper coins as currency. Imagine you are a tea merchant who just sold your harvest in the capital for a massive pile of these coins. You now have to travel hundreds of miles back home, but the weight of the copper makes you a slow and easy target for robbers. To solve this, you leave your coins with a trusted merchant in the capital, and in exchange, he gives you a simple piece of paper. When you get home, you show that paper to the merchant's partner, and he gives you the equivalent amount in coins. This magic system, built entirely on trust and reciprocity, was the world's first form of paper money, known as Fei Qian, or flying money. While this system started as a tool for legitimate trade, it eventually informed a massive global network that exists today. Over centuries, tens of millions of Chinese immigrants spread across the world, often facing persecution or exclusion in their new homes. As a result, they stayed incredibly tight-knit, forming clan networks and family associations that acted as cultural and commercial hubs. These communities were built on core values of self-reliance, personal bonds, and mutual benefit. They created a way to send money back to families in the mainland without using Western banks. However, criminals eventually realized that they could abuse this existing network of trust to create a shadow banking system. Because it is based on deep cultural ties and personal relationships rather than digital ledgers, it is nearly impossible for outsiders or law enforcement to infiltrate or even understand. Let's look at how this plays out in a modern scenario. Meet Mr. Chen, a wealthy man in China who has $2 million he wants to invest in a luxury apartment in Miami. The problem is that the Chinese government has a strict $50,000 annual limit on how much money a citizen can move out of the country. To bypass this, Mr. Chen goes to an underground broker in China.
He pays the broker the $2 million in small, non-suspicious bank transfers between various accounts within China. Crucially, his money never actually leaves the country. The broker then gives Mr. Chen a special code and tells him to have his cousin in the United States visit a specific contact at a shop in Chicago. Mr. Chen's wealth has effectively flown across the ocean without a single dollar crossing a physical border or entering the international banking system. While Mr. Chen is trying to get money out of China, a Mexican drug cartel in Chicago has the opposite problem. They have been selling drugs on the street and are now sitting on $2 million in physical cash. This cash is the definition of dirty. It has no paper trail, and it's too much to carry across the border back to Mexico without getting caught. The cartel representative goes to the same Chinese broker in the US that Mr. Chen was instructed to use. He hands over the $2 million in cash, asking the broker to get the value back to his bosses in Mexico. Now, the broker in the US has a pile of drug cash, and the broker in China has Mr. Chen's legitimate funds. The two brokers, who are often part of the same extended family or clan, begin communicating via encrypted apps to balance their books. This is where the mirror transaction occurs. The broker in China tells the broker in the US that Mr. Chen's cousin is coming with a special code. When the cousin arrives at the Chicago shop and provides the code, the broker hands him the $2 million in cash that originally came from the cartel. The cousin then deposits that cash into various family business accounts in small amounts to avoid raising red flags, and eventually uses it to buy the Miami apartment. At the end of this process, Mr. Chen has his U.S. assets, and the cartel has successfully offloaded their bulky cash. But there is still an imbalance. The broker in China still has Mr. Chen's money, and the cartel in Mexico still needs their payment. To settle this final debt, the criminals move away from cash and turn to the global trade economy. To settle the accounts, the brokers use legitimate-looking front companies. For example, the broker in China might own a business that exports kitchen appliances, while the cartel in Mexico runs a retail store. The cartel purchases $10 million worth of refrigerators from the Chinese broker, but the broker only invoices them for $8 million. By under-invoicing the shipment, $2 million in value is secretly and illegally transferred through a perfectly legal-looking trade transaction. The appliances arrive at the port, are sold in the store, and the cartel receives their money in clean local currency. This is known as following the value rather than following the money. Because most of this transaction involves physical goods and doctored invoices, it leaves no traditional paper trail for authorities to follow. This system isn't just used for cash, it's used to trade dirty products for illegal chemicals. In Mexico, the Sinaloa cartel has moved into the fishing business, targeting the totoaba fish, whose swim bladders are known as the cocaine of the sea. These bladders can sell for tens of thousands of dollars in China as status symbols. The cartel harvests the bladders and uses Chinese brokers to smuggle them across borders, sometimes hidden inside legitimate goods like roof tiles. Instead of paying the cartel in cash, the Chinese mafia might send back fentanyl precursors, chemicals that are technically legal for pharmaceutical use, but are actually used to manufacture deadly drugs. By swapping illegal fish for drug ingredients, the two organizations exchange millions in value without a single bank transfer ever taking place.
Why is this so hard to stop? Because it relies on old-school, low-tech methods that bypass digital surveillance. You can't crack this system with AI alone. You need human intelligence, humans. Investigators like Andrea Crosta and his team spend years infiltrating these networks, using Chinese-speaking undercover operatives to gain the trust of traffickers.
They have recorded secret meetings in Starbucks and restaurants, revealing a world of corrupt customs officers and special dyes that make cash invisible to airport scanners. These operations are incredibly dangerous and take months of patient work. While modern policing often focuses on digital data, these investigators prove that the only way to see the ghosts is to physically meet and befriend the people running the shadow banks. While we have focused on China, Mexico, and the US, this system is truly global. The same flying money network allows the Italian mafia in Rome to offload their cash to a Chinese broker, who then uses that value to buy luxury cars for a Russian oligarch trying to evade international sanctions. The system uses various currencies, including rubles, euros, and yuan, all while evading taxes and official records. This network links disparate crimes across the globe: crypto scams in New York, illegal gold mining in Dubai, and ivory poaching in Africa. It is a single, massive shadow banking network that touches everything from luxury apartments in Vancouver to border tunnels in the desert. It is an unbreakable system of decentralized trust that provides the financial oxygen for almost every form of organized crime on Earth. Fighting a $4 trillion problem requires a fundamental shift in how we think about law enforcement. Experts argue that we already have the laws and regulations we need. What we lack is the human resources and the patience for long-term investigations. Currently, many agencies are rewarded for quick stats, like seizing drugs at the border, rather than dismantling the complex financial webs that make those drugs possible. To stop flying money, governments must create dedicated task forces that can spend years infiltrating these networks. They must focus on the last mile, the point where dirty money is actually converted into clean assets. By changing the incentives for law enforcement and prioritizing following the value, we can begin to put a dent in the shadow economy that impacts every one of us.
The flying money system is proof that in our high-tech world of AI and digital surveillance, the most powerful networks are still built on the oldest thing: